One of the interesting outcomes of having this car on YouTube is that a lot of people have given me a lot of advice, a lot of which I've used and a lot of which has been very helpful. This started out as my project, but as time went along it almost seems like it's become a project of a lot of people, and I really appreciate that. Here is a good example. I originally put the gas filler cap on here with a piece of radiator hose. Somebody on YouTube wrote to me and said that radiator hose will dissolve when the gas hits it. I started a little radiator hose laboratory over here, which is basically an old mayonnaise jar with some gas in it. Put a piece of the hose in there and they were exactly right. So I began looking for some other mechanism, found a piece of plastic vacuum cleaner hose, stuck that down in there, it fit beautifully, put a piece of it in the jar, it dissolved completely. So that was not a workable option. But I went from there to a piece of real metal, which I'm lucky enough to have a neighbor who, like me, doesn't ever throw anything away. And looking through his pile, I found a piece of metal of the exact same size, even has a little flare on the bottom, fits perfectly down into the gas tank. So, today's project is going to be something vaguely, but maybe not exactly like this. Attach this pipe to this pipe, have them fit and not leak and be well designed, and keep this little arrow pointed toward the front of the car. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is to make me a little line down the side of here to show me where the front of the arrow is when it's tightened all the way on there, because once I get it in place I'm not going to be moving it around. The other cool thing is I've sort of begun to understand how to use my MIG welder. I've had a MIG welder for years, but I've never been able to get much use out of it because I'm such an old head stick welder. But I got it out and practiced with it the other day and it actually worked pretty good. So what I'm going to do is find the right spot, get this pipe in here, tack it, cut me a piece like a little, I don't know, maybe like a little funnel piece or something to go around here so that this all becomes one pipe, and go from there. That's the project for today. And when I get it finished, it will fit, this piece will fit exactly down into the tank, and then this piece will fit, it will all be welded together so that it'll come down onto it, something like that, with the little cap facing toward the front, and it should be just about perfect. We'll see how that works out. I love how when you imagine a project like this, things just start falling together. For example, here's the top part of my gas fill tube, the part that the cap goes onto, and here is the pipe that's going to fit into the tank, and it's going to need to go something like this. I walked over to my drawer full of old washers and things, and the second one I picked up was this one, which fits absolutely perfectly right inside the end of this pipe. I mean, that I could basically sit that right there, weld it up nice. All I have to do is enlarge the hole just a little bit so that this will go through it, and it's not that far from being there. And I'm going to have a fine little adaptation there. So just thought I'd share that. I love it when cool things just sort of fall in place like you want them to. Okay, here's a little bit more. I've actually got that washer I was showing you placed in the end of this, and I've got it placed at a little bit of an angle. Here's my forward point. The forward point of the washer is here, and the back is offset a quarter inch or so. The way this sits and the way the body slants, this thing sits at a little bit of an angle, and this needs to be straight. So if I put it right about there, it should be perfect. That's what I'm shooting for. Okay, so here I am back to my design theory. Like I was saying, I've got this washer set in here at an angle. When I weld it to this pipe, which I'm going to put right over that hole, rather than drill that hole out, I'm going to set this right here. That's going to put the filler top coming through the body at about the right angle, and this going straight down into the tank. I did just ride to the gas station and stuck a gas filler down in here just to make sure it goes all the way down through the hole good. So I think that's going to be right honking. I'm going to get to work on that, and it'll give me a chance to touch up on my welding too. Okay, here it is sort of tacked together. Like I said, this piece will go through the body and this piece down here will go straight down into the tank. I haven't finished welded it yet, but I will once I fit it in there and make sure everything's going to fit right. You know, I might even get fancy and take a little Bondo and fill this all in after I weld it just to make sure there's no air cracks, because I want this to vent out up here and not down through this part down here. Also, another thing to mention is that this pipe is large enough so that when you stick your tube in there, it will vent while you're fueling it, so it won't, air won't push the gas back out of the tank, which is important. Okay, this is done basically, except that I am going to pretty it up a little Bondo. This part down here is not pushed in snug. When it does push in snug, it's a good airtight fill, and I may put a little clamp on here just to make it good and snug so that if somebody runs into the back of me, it won't pop out and spill gas all over everything and set it on fire. I got a couple of old gasket pieces up here to play with as far as around the base of that, and basically all they do is just kind of cover up the rough spot of the hole. The cap is adjustable. I figured out after I've been messing around with making sure I had the pipe facing in the right direction, I figured out that this little part inside it is, you can actually turn that so you can make sure that the little arrow is going to be facing the right way once you get it in place. Anyway, there's all that. That was a kind of a fun little project that didn't take very long.